panel. We are especially proud in the 50th year of co-education at Springs to feature a group of distinguished alumni. Today's conversation is made much more meaningful by highlighting women who have led, inspired, and paved the way for others. I also want to recognize Sherilyn Cow and Kate Seidel, this year's mayors, who are guiding our discussion. How fitting is it that in this anniversary year, we have been led by two remarkable young women. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Hi guys. Okay, so I'm going to get us started by simply introducing our panel, and then we'll just go ahead and kick off questions. So today we have Ann Ryan. She's class of 1979. She was the first woman mayor to ever be here at Springs, so that's pretty amazing. Next, we have Elizabeth M. Murray. She's class of 1985. Laura Payne Martinez, class of 1986. And Meade Harris, class of 1986 too. And Ruth Fitts, class of 1996. And then Mira Walker, class of 2016. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with a pretty easy question. Tell us, anything interesting you'd like to share about yourself and how your family or you discovered Springs and maybe why you guys decided to come here. Check, check.
Oh boy. My family moved into Mountain Brook solely for the purpose of having us go to Mountain Brook High School. But my mother, a physician, and a crazy one at that, spent one morning with her physician pals, her surgical pals, whose sons actually had gone to Indian Springs. I was at Brook Hill at the time, and Brook Hill was merging with BUS for anybody, Birmingham University School. And blessedly, on that fateful day, they told her how fabulous Indian Springs had been for their sons. So when they had a break in surgery, she called and she said, I was with Dr. Duggan and whoever else, Mel Duggan's dad, and I think you should go to Indian Springs. We're going to send you to Indian Springs. So that's how I got to come to Indian Springs. So my mother may be crazy, but she valued a rigorous academic curriculum. So that's how I got here.
Okay, so how I got to Indian Springs, that's what okay. I actually grew up in Talladega, Alabama, a small town, and I'm the youngest of three, and I, like my oldest brother, was already really leaning into the arts, leaning into being sort of a creative, and I think I was dying to get out of my little small town. I thought it was a prison. And the plan actually was for me to go to another school called Donahoe, which is in Anniston, if anybody's ever heard of it. And I opted out of going to Donahoe. I ended up staying my first year of high school in Talladega High School, where my brother was a senior, and we had a blast that year. And so I ended up coming here to Indian Springs my 10th grade year. And the one thing I don't know, genuinely, and my parents are gone, is I don't know how I heard about Indian Springs. I'm not sure how it got on our radar, but I do remember coming and visiting, and what a totally different experience it was to be here, and so that's how I ended up here.
My mother was Helen Braswell Payne, who became Madam Payne, and 75, if I'm not mistaken, the first year of coeducation. And she started, I believe, as part-time, but then a couple years later was full-time. Then there was a possibility for us to move onto campus, and we did. And I think I figured out I was in 4th or 5th grade at the time. And so we moved onto campus. I became one of the faculty brats, and Mama was teaching full-time. We lived on Deer Creek Circle, and I was here for 3 years as a faculty, child, and so I told Ann that I probably met her when I was a kid, in the dining hall. And so, yeah, Mama was here and teaching, and my older brother, who's here today, right in the front, preceded me, and then it was my turn to come, and I was thrilled when it was my turn, and this was my home, and it was a great experience.
So I don't remember first hearing about Indian Springs because I had heard about Indian Springs from the time I was born. My great-grandfather was the executor of Harvey Woodward's will. So he was instrumental in starting the school to begin with. And then my uncles on both sides of the family and their cousins, everybody went here. And when it came time to talk about me coming here, my parents were like, wow, it hasn't been co-ed very long, and they wanted to keep me sheltered, but they did let me come out for a day with Virginia Bledsoe and Bill Oliver, and we had the most fun day. They are here today. And we just had so much fun together, and we were outside all the time. And I was like, this is the place for me. So I fought hard to be the first girl in the family to come to Indian Springs, and as you see, I got my way, and my younger brother, Tripp, followed 3 years later, and so that's how I got to Springs.
So I'm from Selma, Alabama, and had intended to go to public schools all the way through, but the schools sort of blew up in protests when I was in 6th grade, and we were still determined for a couple years to stick with it, but eventually my 2 older sisters came to Springs. One of them, my oldest, is a senior, and the second one is a 10th grader. And they came in, and it was kind of mind-blowing from like a small-town perspective. Like there were a few boarders, men who wore long plaid skirts. That was new from a small-town perspective in 1992. But anyway, I came the next year and was a boarder in 9th through senior year. And it was a real home away from home. Kind of the feeling that my hometown could no longer host me. And I came here and it was really wonderful.
So my family has always prioritized education. It's a strong family value that we have, and I grew up originally going to Homewood Public Schools, but if any of you know me, you know that my family is a little non-traditional. I have 2 moms, and being in Alabama, not always the most friendly environment for someone with 2 moms, and so my mom decided to homeschool me for 1st through 7th grade, which was wonderful. We live kind of out in Shelby County, and my parents have a lot of land, and it was just really beautiful getting to be outside. And so I remember once I became a teenager and I started butting heads with my mom a little, we decided maybe it was time to look for something else. And I remember touring here for the first time and just getting to be outside in such a beautiful space. I knew that this would be a place that I would love and a place that I could call home. And it's great to be back today. So that's how I found Springs.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the second part of this question, which was, what were you like as a spring student? So, like, what were you involved with, student government, choir, sports, anything like that?
when coeducation began at Indian Springs, there were 44 girls in 1975. The 44 were spread throughout all 8th grade through 12th grade. So we all did everything together. I think Mel Duggan's mother was our gym teacher, and we actually all had gym at the same time. So you can imagine what a scheduling nightmare that probably was. And getting dressed and changed in the girls' bathroom. We didn't have a locker room at the time. But we did everything, and I think the Indian Springs way, learning through living, allowed us to be on the soccer field, to try badminton, to try tennis, to try theater, to try singing, or the choral groups, to try debate and forensics. So I did a little bit of everything. In terms of student government, I served on the Judiciary Committee, and I served on, I was the Commissioner of Education prior to becoming the mayor my senior year. So I think I did a little bit of everything, and thanks to Indian Springs' very accessible and welcoming ways.
I played tennis. That was a big part of my high school experience. Boo Mason was Coach Boo, was my coach. I still remember him. He could even be in the crowd, I have no idea. But yeah, I was a tennis player. Soccer was kind of new, or at least it was new in my world. And because they were both spring sports, I was never able to try soccer, which is a little disappointment. I would have loved to have tried it. I was a dreadful basketball player, but I had a lot of fun. I remember calling my brother up. He still tells the story where I was literally like, "Hey, Robert, can you tell me about blah, blah, blah?" I mean, like, I knew nothing. But I got out there. I don't know how. And my biggest thing, honestly, is choir. I was in choir. I was in chamber choir. It was by far the formative, the biggest and most positive experience I had. And also, by the way, I don't know if Mike Lantrip is here, but also Recording Arts, which was just a one-semester class, but that was a life-changing experience for me too. So there you go. So yeah, music for me was a big one, and that's kind of it. That was my thing.
I played soccer the first 2 to 3 years. Enjoyed that, and my brother was the coach. We'll talk about that later, I think. I was in the Glee Club as well, and chamber choir. Loved that, and really enjoyed that all through my time, and continued on past high school. Enjoyed theater. I tried fencing. There was a fencing club for a while, which I tried. I was remembering that, and as a faculty brat, we used to say, I was able to live in the dorm circle. So that was the 10th, 11th, 12th. I lived in the dorm circle and had that experience, which was very impactful as well.
I think I pretty much tried everything except sports. Well, I tried out for the tennis team, such as that was, and got a spot on the tennis team, but then I also at the same time got a spot in the play, The Crucible, and my parents said you can't do both, so I picked The Crucible and did plays instead of sports, but I wasn't very good at, well, really either, but that doesn't matter. Glee Club, student government, commissioner of citizenship, I think. And I think there had been a literary magazine for a while, and I don't remember if there was one, and I sort of tried to resurrect it. Anyway, we had one my senior year, and I just decided I was going to do that. And Indian Springs, as you know, is the kind of place that you can say, if you're interested in something, yeah, go for it. Exactly. So we did that.
Double English classes several years. I was really into Mrs. Tootie. So even years I did didn't have Miss Tui, I had Miss Tui. I played basketball horrifically badly all 4 years. I sang in the choir, not well. I was in one act and decided never to go on the stage again. It was so stressful. It's like a really good thing to learn about yourself, like not on the stage, not for you. I really appreciate how much Springs allows you to do things that you may not be terribly good at. I think that was really helpful for me, informative, just to be able to enjoy doing things I'm not good at. But also, like, you don't really know until you try. So one thing I really appreciate about Springs.
I did most everything except sports. While I was here, I did theater. I was big into choir, loved choir. I remember I was on the panel that got to interview Dr. Jung when she was coming in for the position, and I was just so excited to have such a fabulous pianist join the choir. And she also started offering chamber music classes and AP music theory, which I was the only student, so it was just me and her in her office. But that was wonderful, and set me on a good path. I did all sorts of student government, mayor obviously, and commissioner of citizenship, and class representative, I think. I also did yearbook. I think what it taught me is that there is a limit to how much you should take on. And I did way too much. But you know, Springs allowed me the opportunity to try all of those things, and I think that was really important and good for me.
Hi everyone, so I'm Sherilyn Cowell. I was the fall semester mayor. And before we get to the next question, I'll just say, just so we can hear more of the panelists' answers, please just try to hold your applause maybe to the end of after everyone has spoken through that question. So the next question, shifting to more specifically about your term as mayor, why did you decide to run for mayor? What did your campaigning and the election process look like? And then can you share something you're proud that you accomplished during your term, maybe something surprising that happened or something that you learned?
That is a lot. I honestly do not remember what platform I had. As the Commissioner of Education, I had had a very good fall. I had gotten Hal Heflin to come and speak. I had gotten the UAB Blazers coach to come and speak. We had gone to mock court to serve as jury. We had done some other field trips. So I was a good programmer. And I should have, I learned that. I'm good with programming. And I guess in my youthful arrogance, I thought, why not move up in the world? So there were 4 candidates for mayor. 3 of us were day students. 1 was a boarding student. And we actually had a mayoral runoff between myself and the boarding student. And it was a male. It was 3 males and me. And I won. The administration was very concerned about my status as a day student. And while there was never a specific reason stated, I think I was also the first day student that had ever served as mayor. At one point, somebody from the administration called my parents and really put the pressure on them because mayors need to be on campus. And the gift was I got to board the last 6 weeks of my senior year, which was fabulous. But I think it surprised the administration, or took the administration back, that a day student now held this position. I think I struggled with what felt like a double standard that I did not handle well. For example, the librarians, now that you're mayor, you need to police the library and keep everybody quiet because you need to be the role model. We had a project with one of the teachers and a group project, and he was very unhappy with the way we executed it and said to me, of all people, you should know better. You know, I expected this sort of behavior from the rest of the people in your group, but you're the mayor, and you should know better. And, you know, it's like, you know, and it felt incredibly isolating that, you know, why should I know better? I'm still human. So that was a very difficult and unanticipated challenge that came up during there. I remember the biggest issue was getting an ice machine into the dorm circle, and unfortunately we never accomplished that. So I apologize to my constituents. Hopefully you have one now. Perhaps my legacy donation. If you don't, you will get one. Memorial ice machine. I can't imagine, and you know, sometimes I was told to be sweeter. You know, you should be sweeter with the things you say during town hall. And I honestly cannot imagine someone saying to Jim Bailey, my predecessor, and Jim is a lovely, you know, very charming late-night fellow, but I can't imagine someone saying to him, Jim, you need to be sweeter. So it was an interesting tenure. We'll leave it at that. So, but I would not change my decision to run. I would not change any of that experience. So that's my story.
I'm so glad I've asked almost everyone on this panel. I do not remember my platform either, at all. I have no memory. When it was asked, I was like, oh Lord, I guess I'm supposed to remember that we had a platform, because I don't remember having one. The only person I knew who had a platform is sitting in the front row, and he was the motivated mayor. Just want to say, anybody in my class will know what I'm talking about, or below. Okay, but at any rate, I do not know what made me decide to run. I was not in any of I wasn't commissioner of anything before I decided. And I didn't think of it as a female thing. I know we're all female, I know, and that we sort of broke, you for sure, broke boundaries. But I didn't think of it in a female thing. I will say this, when I ran, I only remember running against one person, and he is today an MD, PhD. Brilliant, a very, very typical academic star. I was not. And I don't think I was supposed to win. I think it was a pretty big shock when I ended up winning and becoming the fall mayor. When I got into it, I didn't exactly feel a double standard, but what I did discover is that there was no structure that was kind of on me to make, to you know, like bring, you know, to have like meetings with the commissioner of protection and commissioner, and I got into schoolwork, and I'm not sure I did that great of a job of that aspect of it. I led town hall meetings. I remember, you know, doing you guys will remember, but we used to have to make announcements every day at lunch, and I remember doing that, and in theory, I did all that fine. But I don't remember what motivated me. I will say one thing, and that is that my junior year, I call myself a true boarding student because my parents didn't live in Birmingham. They did move later in my senior year. But at that time, I was a true boarding student from a small town, just like you, but with no ties to the school. And I sort of recognized, I came from, my father was a teacher at Talladega College, which is a historically black college, University HBCU. I grew up, he and my parents were both big civil rights advocates, and he had a lot of advocacy in terms of community, in terms of Talladega, a lot of, and I really came Indian Springs. I mean, when I thought about this, I realized that was a big legacy for me of why I stepped in. And I recognized that there was some dysfunction on at least I thought among the boarding students who were there. I thought there was some, I just thought there was some dysfunction, maybe some dissatisfaction, maybe some issues. And I actually did a survey. I was asking people about their emotional health, which is not how I would have put it back when I was a junior in high school, would not have known those terms. And I think it started a conversation. I think it was kind of a big thing, or at least it was, I think, maybe in terms of the faculty, if anybody remembers. I have. But I wonder whether that kind of catapulted me into thinking that I could be mayor. But anyway, I ended up doing it. I was absolutely the dark horse candidate, and somehow ended up winning it. And by the way, my friend Jordan Shin, who I ran against, he ran again and was, as he should have been, the mayor our spring year. So. Well, as Elizabeth mentioned, I also, when I got asked to do this, I could not remember my platform, or a lot. 40 years is a long time. But I managed to find the videotape of my graduation speech, and I managed to hook it up to our TV and watch it. And in that, I was reminded of how I came about running, which was that Jonathan Horn, here in the front row, my French teacher encouraged me to run, and I think I kind of said, well, I'm not sure I had a reason why, except that, as I said before, it was definitely my home, and I felt very strongly about Indian Springs and the values here of the community. But I think probably when he suggested it, I probably felt like, why not? Why shouldn't I? And my older brother had been the motivated mayor that she referred to. So had a good role model there. Again, my graduation speech didn't really enlighten me into my platform, but I didn't talk about accomplishments. But what I did talk about that I imagine I talked about when I was running was the strong sense of community and the appreciation for living and learning with folks from so many different backgrounds, different parts of the city, of the state, and the country in some cases. And we had several international students, which I was really involved, but impacted by. So.
Following Laura in the spring of '86, my job was just not to mess it up after she'd done a good job. But I don't remember my platform either, but I did call my brother and said, do you remember what my platform was? And he said, I think basically your speech was, I love this school. And apparently that was good enough. So, I honestly don't remember any true accomplishments. I remember more with Commissioner of Citizenship that I thought D-Day was one of the coolest things about Indian Springs, and everybody chipping in to do work and make the place more beautiful was just, I thought, really fun and special when I was a student. And I do remember us trying to make D-Day more robust. So I think we had some programming in the morning and then really asked the administration to do some real projects. I think we rebuilt that floating platform in the lake. I thought D-Day was a really special thing about Indian Springs. I still do. I think all schools should have something like that where students contribute back. The other thing I remember you reminded me about doing the announcements at lunch was that I was tasked with making the announcement in the lunchroom that the Challenger, Space Shuttle Challenger, had exploded. And I just remember having this moment of, is this appropriate? Is this okay? This is really a dark, horrible thing, and do I have verification that this actually happened? Do I know it's true? And I believe I said it just in a sentence or two, but just the silence in the dining hall after that. And that's just a moment where that responsibility of being the mayor was a little heavier and a little more weighty than it was on a typical day.
I also don't remember much about being mayor, truthfully. I really enjoyed speaking at town halls. It gave me the impression that I was like a good public speaker, and I found that to not always be true. But one of the main things I remember remember is in the election, it was me against my roommate, Jen Spears, who is here. So in very much women supporting women, we both admitted to one another that we'd always wanted to run for mayor. And we're like, well, I wouldn't want to stand in your way. I would want to stand in your way. So we ran, and I think the rest of the school found it more awkward than we did. But she still loved and supported me, even after I won. And as an addendum to that, about 10 years ago, I put out this little children's geography book, which did not sell a million copies or make me rich and famous, but it won a little award from geography educators. And who came to the conference for me to get this award? But Jen, as well as 3 of my other Springs friends, Anita and Jenny and Chandra, they all came, even though they were busy with careers and family, et cetera, for me to get a little tiny plaque. And they helped me run my book booth. And I remember coming back from a session to overhear one of them being like, it sounds like you actually need several copies. So yeah, most supportive friends ever. There for even my little moments. So yeah, thank you, Jen.
So I was lucky I had several really great examples of female leadership that came before me. Evelyn Baxley, Tara Margaret, just really excellent female mayors. So it was never really a question for me. I kind of knew I wanted to. And I was kind of pushed into it by my friend group because there was a particular group, a friend group of boys that was kind of running student government in the fall semester. And we were like, I think we could do better. So I ended up running for the spring semester mayor, and kind of to echo what you were saying about D-Day, I always found D-Day to be really special, and when I was at Springs, I was lucky. The campus was already beautiful. Sure, there were little things that needed to be done here and there, but we were more focused on providing service in the community, and I felt that that was something really important for the student body to give back to the greater Birmingham community, because we are all really lucky to be here, and we had a lot of time and energy to invest in the community. And I was Commissioner of Citizenship with my friend Julia, and we had already been doing some service projects in the area, and so I think that was a big part of what I wanted to bring to mayor. And I also did not really remember what my platform was, but since I am class of 2016, I still had my speech on my old laptop that I was able to look at, and I did talk a lot about service. I talked a lot about making town hall meetings shorter by having people email me their announcements ahead of time. And you know, I'm really grateful for the experience. The one big event that we did put on was Springs Fest, which was kind of music festival kind of event that we put on to raise money for local nonprofits. And I was able to dig up the old Facebook event. I think we had 50 people respond that they attended, so that seems pretty good to me.
Our third question is, when you look back on that experience now, in what ways, if any, did the experience contribute to where or who you are now? Or in other words, what did your spring experience give you that inspires who you are today?
I think I'll answer in 2 ways. Globally, describiendo, and I apologize for massacring the Latin, learning through living is the motto, the mantra that has followed me both professionally and personally. I work as a psychotherapist and spend lots of time encouraging clients to just try something a little different. You know, don't get angry with your mother. Say something a little different. You know, try an alternative. You know, let's work a different way of responding this time when she makes you angry. You know, let's try and improve your life by changing your behavior. So I think a lot about that. We spend a lot of time thinking about that. And I think in my own life, I think curiosity is the lifeblood of humanity. So learning through living keeps you curious. It keeps you eager to learn and enthusiastic about the world. So I carry that forward. On a ground level, thank you, R.J. Stegner, for always teaching me to look up words in the dictionary, because it's still something I do. Whether reading the New York Times and you can press the word and you get to look up, or I had my Merriam-Webster application app on my phone. I always look up words because he ingrained that practice in me, and I remain so grateful for that. I'm sure he would roll in his grave if he looked at my writing now. But I do try and be a faithful devotee to the dictionary, thanks to him.
Gosh, I don't really know how to answer this question, so I'm going to be really. I think I'm still at my age. We'll leave that at my age. We'll leave it at that. I think I'm still sort of pondering what it meant the 3 years that I was here. For sure, I learned. I think I learned what it means to be educated, like what truly educated people, what that level is. I think. I will say that I never felt like I really got there. I think it was the academics was a little bit of a struggle for me, but I really did see, and I did not see that in my public school, so that was huge. I definitely have carried community service forward. I've been a volunteer. I'm right now a community leader in Birmingham system called the Citizens Participation Plan. I've done that for years and years. It was hugely formative for me. It was a huge part of my life, and but I don't have a quick a beautiful, profound answer to say exactly one thing that I came across. It was just an amazing experience.
So I spent a lot of time thinking about it as well, and reflecting, and the thing that I came up with is the living in community, which learning through living within that community, but for sure living within the community, and I was thinking about it just today on my way here. I didn't think about it at the time, of course, but the experience of interacting with my teachers throughout the day, not just in class, but in the cafeteria, maybe sitting at the table with them and having a conversation with them, interacting with them around in the hallways. There was that mutual respect that formed my foundation, and the living within community was also formed my foundation that I carried with me, and that ended up being super important for me. I went away for college, lived in Washington, D.C. after college, then I did my master's somewhere else and studied there, and then I met my husband, who was in the military and moved 9 times over 16 years, and it was super important for me to know what a healthy community looked like, and having had that experience, I then each time I was moving or we were moving as a family, knew how important it was for me to seek out my village, my community, and create it. That I wasn't just gonna wait or live in an isolated bubble. I wanted to live within community, and that I think I really did learn in that in those earlier years. For me, like I said, it wasn't just high school, it was even a little bit before I got to live it, and took that with me, and still is very important to me now in terms of seeking out and creating your community and continuing to expand it beyond what you might originally be comfortable with or the people you may know already, but continuing to expand that community.
Yeah, I just gained so much by being here. I think the things that came up for me were being taught to think critically. And when I say that critically, I just need to question what you read and question what you hear, and not in a I don't believe you confrontational sort of way necessarily, but just to, Dr. Cooper taught us to interrogate the text and to think about the perspective of the writer and the perspective of the audience that is, supposed to receive the material. And we had a lot of, if you've been in Dr. Cooper's class, which most people in this room have, you learn how to argue well and respectfully and thoughtfully and consider other people's point of view. And I just really can't think of anything more crucial in our world today than learning to how to evaluate the information you're getting and process it thoughtfully, and then ask good questions and listen to the people that you're talking to, especially if they think differently than you do. You might learn something. So I really learned that in Dr. Cooper's class. And then, oh gosh, so many folks made such an impression on me, but the other one has to be Dr. Stegner. I became a writer and an editor, and I still think when I get a piece of writing, I'll think, oh man, this really needs to be Stegnerized. And I'm going to teach another writing workshop in May, and I've done this so often, and a lot of what I will teach them is what Mr. Stegner taught me. And I'm just so grateful. So the other piece of that critical thinking is learning clear communication. How to say what you mean what you say. Are you saying what you want to say? And really rereading what you write and evaluating, did that say what I meant it to say? I really learned that from Mr. Stegner. And the other thing I will mention is that Jonathan Horn developed a French literature class for me and Joel Shin, I think it was, and just the being able to pursue something I was genuinely interested in having an adult spend that kind of time with me, because we met once or twice a week and spent hours talking about French literature, and it just really meant a lot to be seen and valued in that way. So much I gained here.
I'd like to echo the living in community. I think Springs really taught me to value community and to look for ways to make it wherever I work or live, and being able to value each person for what different things they might be bringing to the table. And then the other thing I would say is, Springs gave me a lot of lifelong friends who are like family now. If I'm in trouble, who am I going to call? Probably one of them. And that's, really incredible to have people that are with you over such a long period of time and who knew you at such an awkward phase at times, and who still love you.
I echo all of that. I think the two main things it boils down to for me are community and curiosity. So, like so many of you have mentioned, just the fact that the faculty here always treated me like my opinions mattered, like my ideas mattered. They wanted to hear what I had to say. And one of my fondest memories is doing a War and Peace book club with Dr. Cooper at his house. I don't think I ever would have gotten through War and Peace otherwise, but it truly was like a college seminar. Now that I look back on it, we were responsible for reading a certain amount, and we all came and discussed it. And just, being treated like an intellectually, having our opinions treated as if they mattered at that age was so huge. I've carried that with me. I'm finishing my doctorate now, and in writing my dissertation, I was definitely thankful for all of the excellent writing skills I learned here. So that's just another add-on to that. But I will finish by echoing the sentiment about community. I've lived in numerous different places now, far away from home, and the skills I learned here about how to build community, how to talk to people who are different than me and build relationships with them, I've carried with me, and I know that I will continue to carry with me.
Thank you all for sharing. So to finish it up, we have a question. So what is some advice, any of your outlooks or insights that you can share with the student body, whether it be related to their time at Springs, their careers up ahead, or just any life advice you have for them?
So, of course this is biased because of my particular profession, but you get to hear it anyway. It is always about the relationship. It is always about the relationship. So, try to always be kind and generous. You don't know what the person you're dealing with has been through that morning. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Stay in your lane. They don't want your advice unless they ask for it. So stay in your lane. And as David Sedaris told the class at Oberlin, be angry at only one person at a time. Sometimes it's very hard to choose. And sanctimony is all around us. But choose only one person at a time to be angry with. And one of my favorites, and last, is be careful, because the foot that you chew on so voraciously today just may be attached to the ass you're going to have to kiss tomorrow.
That's fantastic. I wish you told me that a little earlier in my life. Okay, so some real practical for the young folks in here. Learn to cook. I'm for real. I'm not kidding. You will, it's very zen. If you get good at it, make yourself get good at it. In the modern world, it's so easy, and you'll spend so much money on having food delivered to you, and that's a beautiful thing. But learn to cook. I promise you, it will forever, you will be grateful for it. Also get out, garden. You definitely got that from this being on this beautiful campus. I would encourage you guys to embrace, like you guys were talking about, community. Embrace the idea of what Martin Luther King called mutuality. Understand that in a place like this, it can be really easy to believe that your success depends all on you. And the truth is, your success will always depend on working with other people and the help of other people, because that is actually the truth. This individualism that we have in our country, that's not the way to go forward. And especially you women we're still doing a lot. We're still doing an unequal part of the caregiving in this world, on top of having these amazing jobs, and I know all of y'all are going to do that. Those things will not be possible unless you understand that you need help, that you need to rely on other people. That's not a weakness. That's a beautiful thing, and you need to embrace that idea of mutuality. And I didn't realize that the whole student body was going to be here, but I thought this was sort of female, like women-oriented, because we're all women on this thing. I just wanted to say one other thing. I really do encourage all of you, not just women. I really encourage you to read. Read about feminist thoughts. Read all the ones in our past, Kate Chopin, Betty Friedan. Get yourself, and then read, nowadays, like, read Rebecca Traister. She's with New York Magazine. She's an incredible feminist. Who else? Michelle Goldberg. Bell Hooks. She's actually gone, but Bell Hooks is an amazing writer. You need to really and truly immerse yourself in feminist thought, because what Hillary Clinton actually said is women's rights are human rights. And the issues that women have in our culture is invisible. And I brought this book. I wanted y'all to see. I'm sorry. Do you care if I just really quickly read you one thing? My husband would laugh if he were here right now because I'm always reading to him or making him listen. But this is a book called The New Jim Crow, which is about the carceral system in our society, specific to the Black community. And Michelle Alexander wrote it. She talks about how even after all the years when she started the work of this book, she herself didn't really realize the level of racism and the systemic racism that was happening. She thought there would be, she knew there were issues and there were a lot more Black men and people of color in the carceral system, but she thought there was for other reasons until she started really doing the study. And this is what she said about it. She said, she said, the new caste system is obvious as my own face in the mirror. She says, like an optical illusion, one in which the embedded image is impossible to see until its outline is identified. The new caste system lurks invisibly. It lurks invisibly within the maze of rationalizations. She says, it is possible, quite easy, in fact, never to see the embedded reality. And that's what Rebecca Tracer talks about all the time. We are swimming in a sea. And it's really hard to tell that maybe the water is dirty. So I just encourage you guys to read, and understand that we are just starting to create a world in which women are genuinely equal. And this is not just about pay. This is about consent and power and the idea of the feminine. And it will affect everything in the positive. So go that direction and make the world a better place.
That's a tough one to follow. But in a way, this kind of ties into that, which is a couple of quotes that I thought of when I saw the question about advice. And one of them is very much in line with that, by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that encourages others to join you. So really to fight for the things and always be trying to welcome others in a subtle way and get them involved in your fight and with the issues you care about. And we are clear there. Another quote that I really like, particularly at times like I feel like we're in right now where there's a lot of challenges, is one that I found from Howard Zinn. To be hopeful in bad times is based on the fact that human history is not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, and to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. And I really appreciate that and encourage you all to find, even if there's small acts that you can take each day that align with your values, to do that.
I would just simply say that you have been given an incredible gift to be at Indian Springs, and the people that you've been in community with and that you've learned from, and the lessons you've learned and the ways of thinking and expressing yourself that you have learned, go and use those for the good of the world. Hold them in humility and look for ways that you can use those things you've been given to serve others.
I have a pop bracelet that says "Be Beautiful," and that is generally my advice. It's from a children's pride event that my library hosts every year. That's one of the things I most love that I'm involved with. It's for all kids 0 to 19 and their families to come out and celebrate the diversity of our community, particularly the diversity of gender and sexuality. But the theme every year is "Be Beautiful and Be Kind." And I really think that pretty much sums up what we all need to do.
I'm gaining so much wisdom from all these ladies. I've only been out of school for 10 years, so I have a more youthful perspective on things perhaps, but when I was graduating, things felt very contentious. It was 2016. We were in the middle of a very interesting election cycle, and I can't believe here we are 10 years later, and it seems like it's all repeating itself. So what I would say is don't take your time here for granted. Don't take the opportunities that you have here for granted. I didn't realize how lucky I was to be here with these people in this community with these opportunities. Someone mentioned Bell Hooks earlier, who's one of my favorite authors. And Bell Hooks talks about education as a practice of freedom. And I love that idea. I think it's so true. But I think when you're in a place like this, sometimes it's easy to isolate yourself from the rest of the world and forget what's going on. I remember soon after graduating, I was talking with a friend, and I was talking about politics, and this friend said, "Oh, well, I'm not really political. It doesn't really affect me that much." And that just really, it hurt, because it was a good friend from this community, and I was hoping for better. So I just hope that all of you can stay engaged with the world around you. Make sure that you don't get isolated in your little bubbles. Stay curious. It's so easy these days to, just use AI to answer a question and, not do the reading, but do the reading. I'll leave you with that. Do the reading.
Today for sharing your stories, your time is here. Can we have one final round of applause for all of our panelists? Dismissed. We hope to see you later at 3 for our alumni theater ceremony.